Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base.
Millions of people find comfort in feeling sad. This special feeling is what's known as melancholy. It's the kind of sadness that feels good. So good, you begin to desire it. But the disturbing thing about melancholy that sets it apart from regular sadness is how we don't know where it comes from. We simply feel empty. And for some reason, we like it. As we'll see, the desire to be sad is a longing to understand what we're missing. It manifests as an engagement with sad media, the romanticization of suffering, and a yearning for meaning.
Before we look at the function of the desire to be sad, it's best if we understand where it comes from.
Melancholy is everywhere in Silent Hill 2, as much as the fog that fills the town's streets. In the game's opening, James Sunderland receives a letter from his deceased wife 2 years after her death, telling him to meet her in their special place somewhere in the town of Silent Hill. And although he tells himself she's dead and can't possibly be there, he goes looking for her anyway, as if he doesn't believe what he already knows. But what if I told you Silent Hill's incredibly famous premise is also the premise of Sigmund Freud's paper, Mourning and Melancholia? Freud makes the radical claim that mourning and melancholia are both approaches to loss, but he specifically sees melancholia as a failure to mourn. The mourning process means coming to accept that the person or thing we love is gone forever. Everything in the world reminds us of them. We might even feel their presence. Freud wrote that for mourning to be successful, we must retract our attachment to the deceased each time a memory surfaces, until our grief no longer consumes us. Images rush in to fill the gap left by their absence. It's an unbearably painful process that lasts for years. We used to think we would die from it. Nobody questions why you feel sad after losing someone or something you love. By contrast, even we can't quite pinpoint why we feel sad and melancholy. One may know they have lost someone, but, Freud writes, only in the sense that he knows whom he has lost, but not what he has lost in him.
This is the most important thing I've said so far.
Maybe something like looking at your baby photos hits you harder than you expected. You know what's changed. Obviously, you've grown up, but you're not sure why it hurts so much. You feel melancholy. Loss doesn't only involve people. Animals, objects, periods of your life, and purpose can all be loved and lost. Because there's something more to these things than just the person or thing we've left behind.
I'll help you understand what that is throughout this video.
Of course, when you want to be sad, you consciously or subconsciously search it out, but little attention has been paid to how that's accomplished. Sad media is one outlet. Tragedy becomes so attractive because fictional losses act as a mirror. And if you're anything like me, melancholy also means romanticizing the world around you, your emotions. Things seem prettier when you're sad. Both of these are ways of coping with loss. They both also fit neatly into psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan's idea of the symbolic register. The symbolic is the realm of representation. While it mostly concerns language, it also encompasses the laws and social conventions one is born into. It's one of 3 domains of psychic life. There's also the imaginary, which has to do with our self-image and perception of others, and the real, that which cannot be represented or understood. All 3 have something to tell us about the desire to be sad.
Drawing on the linguist Ferdinand de Saussure, Lacan taught that the spoken and written word are just 2 means of representation.
Words are what Saussure and Lacan called signifiers, a material way of representing a concept. But words aren't the only signifiers. Sign language, for example, doesn't have words. The 1992 documentary Baraka has no voiceover and still manages to make a point. Movies, melodies, and art help us grasp what we can't put into words.
What I want to emphasize is the role representation has in melancholy.
Keeping in mind that melancholy centers around an unrepresentable loss. In Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver, a Vietnam veteran takes on the night shift for a taxi service while suffering from insomnia. But he becomes increasingly disgusted with the people he sees on the streets at night. Disdain colors his view of the whole world. He writes about his ensuing loneliness with great detail in the journal, but there's something about it all he can't articulate. His entries are seemingly unable to get directly to the heart of what he's lost. In one scene, Travis asks a friend for advice, but when he tries to explain his problem, he's entirely unable to. His friend's advice is consequently useless, and Travis is left alone with his melancholy. On his TV appearance in 1974, Lacan claimed that depression arises from a failure to articulate oneself. The same is true of melancholy. None of us choose the language we learn to speak. The methods of navigating existence given to us by our parents and culture do not have our names signed at the bottom. The forms of representation available to us come from other people. And yet, in cases like the desire to be sad, we cannot fully express what we're going through. There's an incompleteness in our language. An existing void is torn wider. Lacan understood that the fundamental psychological conflict is between language and the body. If one complains about a lack of meaning in one's life, it's because the structures that sustain meaning have collapsed. The melancholic feel sad because they lack the symbolic resources to work through their feelings. I remember when someone close to me was suffering from depression, he would hardly speak a word. At best, he would answer, probably, to any questions until he was left alone. This is what Lacanians call an empty discourse, and it invades the body through emotions like melancholy. Psychoanalysts know that every emotion says something. It's yet another form of expression, only our emotions can't be words. I am sad because that is what emotions are dying to tell us. We always feel more than we can express. We might react to the emotional uncertainty by looking for others to tell us what we feel. Fiction can represent things for us that we're unable to. So we probe for answers in art, movies, music, and so on. We make ourselves sad, hoping we'll uncover the truth. It's a comforting process. Ask someone about their desire to be sad, and comfort is the word that comes up time and time again. But it doesn't work. There's more to this problem. But first, we need to thank Headspace for sponsoring this video.
There was a moment writing this video that I could have died. I'd become so distracted with my research that I stopped doing some of the things you're supposed to when you're type 1 diabetic. And so in a staggering 3 days, the sugar content in my blood was so high it became acidic. I drove myself to the ER after an entire night spent throwing up. But if I had hesitated, my death wasn't off the table. I spend every day mindfully considering existential topics such as death and the horror of having a body. Because of that mindfulness, I was able to handle this emergency well emotionally.
Headspace is an app that can help you cultivate a state of mindfulness. It has solutions for stress, poor sleep, and lack of focus in the form of breathing exercises and guided meditation. I've been using Headspace for the past month, and I was surprised how much their breathwork exercises, just 5 minutes of comfortable, deep breathing, made every day. The app provides a daily set of meditations and exercises for you, but you can also select your own. If you've ever wanted to try meditating like I did, Headspace makes it easy. And you can try it out completely for free for 60 days. This is a limited time offer that's way longer than their 1-week trial. All you have to do is sign up using the link in my description or scan the QR code currently on screen. Loss doesn't just strike at the symbolic. It poses problems for the imaginary, too. There's a scene in Shakespeare's comedy, Twelfth Night, in which Jester is threatened with his dismissal unless he can make the Countess Olivia laugh. Her brother is dead, and the Countess is in mourning. He tells her he thinks her brother is in hell, to which she insists he's in heaven.
Fool Madonna, to mourn for your brother's soul being in heaven,
he says, and the Countess laughs. Why bother grieving someone we know is at peace? Lacan dares to point out that there's something self-centered about mourning. Grief isn't always for the dead. We grieve ourselves. When you lose someone you love, you also lose a part of yourself. To lose a child is to likewise lose your role as that child's mother or father. This part of the mourning process might look like keeping that child's room clean, setting a seat for them at the dinner table, or keeping up other parental duties at first. But eventually, we let ourselves lose the responsibilities we once had. But the melancholic isn't aware they've lost this part of themselves. When there's a malfunction in the symbolic, there's also usually a problem in the imaginary, a crisis of self. As I explained before, signifiers represent concepts. These concepts exist in the imaginary. What we call a self-image is, in fact, the concept one has of oneself. On Lacan's diagram of the three registers, he attributes meaning to both the symbolic and the imaginary. In this sense,